Welcome to the Silver Screen Guide podcast, where we discuss films from every genre. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the podcast.
Get your big butt back inside. This is your co-host Corbin.
I'm Allen.
Today we are discussing, if you couldn't already tell from that opening line, Men in Black, a very popular film that is getting its fourth installment this summer, Men in Black International, which appears to not have any of the returning cast members. Maybe they'll be in a cameo. I don't know. We'll see. But we are taking a break from M. Night Shyamalan. Last week we reviewed The Village. That review is out now for you to listen to, and you definitely have time to catch up on Shyamalan. We're about halfway through his films, so we still have, I think, another 6 or 7 to go through, and I've been doing all the info and background on those. Once we come back to those films, Alan will switch over and take care of those. Thankfully, that's a long series to do the background and info for all 14 of them. He has one film coming up, Devil, which we won't be reviewing here on the channel, but I'm going to be doing the written review, just like I did the written review for Stuart Little, because it kind of doesn't count, but it sort of does count. So look for that written review. Of course, that'll be in the link in the description. And if you don't already follow me on Letterboxd, so you can read all of my thoughts on all the movies I see throughout the week, and you can just know what I'm watching, then go ahead to Letterboxd and follow me on there. It's pretty easy to find me. It's just my name. Just type in Corbin or something. Look through the Twitter. It's pretty easy to find me. And if you're wondering, hey, why does Corbin sound like he, drank a bunch of swamp water? And
it's because he did.
It's because I did. Alan dared me.
I did.
To drink swamp water. And this is what happens, kids. So stay in school and don't drink swamp water. Just kidding. Well, no, I'm not kidding. You should stay in school.
You probably shouldn't drink swamp water either.
You probably shouldn't. I don't want to be liable for that. So, disclaimer, don't drink swamp water. Anyways, where we live, it has been raining like nobody's business. Like Noah's Ark is coming back. I've always had lots of allergy issues. So when I do mow the lawn, I make sure to mow it with a mask, because otherwise it'll really get to me and just give me a headache throughout the day. And I thought, oh great, after all this rain, I definitely better wear a mask. So I did. And, I still got sick.
It was ineffective.
So, but yeah, like I said, we are discussing Men in Black. I am new light to this series. Alan, are you brand new to this?
I'm brand new to the next two. Or I guess next, technically 3. Yeah. I have seen, I guess, a good chunk of this one. Not all the way through, but I think I saw roughly about 30 minutes of this one. I was at my aunt's house, and it was on TV, and so my uncle and I and my 3 cousins were kind of just watching it, because it was playing, one of the TV channels, so I have seen about half of this, but I wasn't really paying too much attention at that point. So for this, I had to. So yeah, about a good 30, maybe 45 minutes of this I had seen, and it's mostly the beginning and then a small chunk in the middle. But other than that, I'm pretty much new to everything else.
Yeah, like I said, I'm new-ish. It was late January of this year. I don't remember how we got... My girlfriend and I, we were going through movie series, we were going through particular series from our past. Most specifically, we went through all of the Twilight films and ranked all of those. That was interesting. And she had seen Men in Black before, at least the first one. And I said, yeah, I've never seen Men in Black. It's one of those movies that everybody has seen except me.
Mm-hmm. Actually, both of us, which is kind of funny, I think.
Yeah, that is funny. But yeah, so we did watch all 3 of the Men in Black movies late January through February. So I've technically seen all of these movies before, but just within the past few months. So I'm still kind of new to it, but it's about time, honestly. It's about time we watch these movies, because everybody's seen them except us, and it's kind of embarrassing.
And from what from what I understand too, this, especially this first one, seems to be very beloved by many a folk.
Oh yes.
And I hear so much about it, and I know I've seen clips from it, even like on YouTube, because I know for a fact that I've also seen the very ending shot, which I know is pretty famous.
If I'm not mistaken, do you remember like one Sunday morning when we were in Sunday school, and I'm pretty sure Forrest showed us the ending clip of this? That's where I saw that. Or maybe it wasn't in Sunday school. Maybe it had something to do with the youth group that we went to, where
I don't know.
Somehow we saw the ending clip. That's where I did see the ending clip there.
That may be what I'm thinking of then, but I don't know. I do remember when the movie ended and I saw that last scene, I was like, I've seen this somewhere before. That may have been it. But I can't remember. I was thinking I saw it in some YouTube video somewhere.
I have no idea what this ending would have to do with church,
yeah,
and theology, but okay. I'm telling you, that's where we saw it, but
yeah.
Who knows? The one thing interesting I did notice is this is Amblin Entertainment, which is Steven Spielberg's company.
Yeah, Steven Spielberg, I believe, was one of the producers here for this movie. So, yeah, is Amblin Entertainment still a thing?
I think so.
I'm trying to remember if I saw their logo recently, because I know we see it a lot on a lot of like 80s to 90s stuff because of, ET logo. I'm trying to remember if I've seen it on anything else recently that Spielberg is attached to.
I'm pretty sure that it is. I can look really quick, but I think they've kind of updated the ET logo. Usually they have it's like, the ET thing going on.
Right.
So yes, Amblin Entertainment is still very much a thing. They're doing the new Men in Black. They did Captive State, First Man.
Oh, okay.
First Man. Ready Player One, The Post, The House with the Clock in Its Walls. They're doing a new movie that I think is going to be really good about the Vatican, like kidnapping this boy. True story. Look it up. So yeah, they do a lot of stuff, and a lot of stuff I didn't necessarily realize they did, like Transformers and.
I wonder if the reason why I don't know if they're still alive is because maybe there's a change in the logo, and I always associate Amblin Entertainment with that ET logo.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's the reason why I just haven't seen them.
I think so. I think they are, for particular movies, they're not placing in their kind of splash screen logo.
Gotcha. Well, the director of this movie it's kind of funny because the guy that they wanted to get to be the director was Barry Sonnenfeld, and he originally was going to direct it, and then he wasn't going to direct it because he got into Get Shorty, and then Men in Black was delayed, so he came back as director, and in between those two times, they got another guy, Les Mayfield, because they heard pretty good things, because I think they heard pretty good things about the Miracle on 34th Street remake. And then they saw it, and then they said, I don't know so much about him anymore. And then they ended up getting Barry Sonnenfeld back. Mm-hmm. But I thought it was actually kind of funny that because they had heard good things about the Miracle on 34th Street remake that this other guy had done. And I think it's just kind of funny that's all. They're like, no.
It is kind of funny. I had seen the beginning of Get Shorty. That's like the only other Barry Sonnenfeld thing that I've seen that I know of. He did do, he will come back and do, the next two movies.
Okay.
So, he's also done RV, which I've seen. Allen, he did 9 Lives, where Kevin Spacey turns into a cat.
Wait, he did that one?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Oh, no. I've seen that.
Yeah.
Oh, it hurt. That was actually one I couldn't make it through, believe it or not.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, I did end up finishing it, but 5 minutes from the end, I walked out, and I was like, nope, not anymore.
He is also the cinematographer for Misery. He also is a cinematographer for Big, When Harry Met Sally, Raising Arizona, Throw a Mama from a Train, and he produced Enchanted, A Series of Unfortunate Events, the movie, Space Chimps, and the Coen Brothers movie, The Lady Killers. So, kind of a interesting resume here.
Yeah, he's
all over
the
the place. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Because, like, I know... I've heard the name before, Barry Sonnenfeld. And I guess he's also done Addams Family and the sequel that was pertaining to that. And that was kind of what got their eye on this guy because they liked, I guess, his comedy style.
Oh, well, that makes sense. Yeah, and, Will Smith is a pretty comedic person.
Oh, yeah.
Fresh Prince of Bel-Aire was a very popular show preceding this movie. I think Will Smith had transitioned more so to film at this point. I never watched Fresh Prince. It was on in passing. Tommy Lee Jones is not known for comedy. So it's kind of an odd pairing. We got an odd couple going on here between Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones.
Well, yeah, Tommy Lee Jones is, I think now he's more associated with more comedic pictures than what he was. I guess maybe the one, and I'm just kind of, this is kind of just a guess, I'm guessing maybe the one that kind of is like, oh, maybe he has some comedic potential would have been The Fugitive. Because he does have some pretty funny lines in that one, aside from it being a rather serious movie. But
yeah, I think there's like some kind of funny lines that he does come across but yeah, they're probably trying to go for different generational, a generational gap with Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones, like old school, new school. One's more street smart, one's more by the book and straight laced. So, I mean, it's a really weird pairing, but I think it works for this movie.
Yeah. Okay, so the original ending of this movie, and this is not really spoilers, but the original ending of this movie was going to have the main bad guy and Will Smith, or Agent J, kind of have this existential debate. And then they filmed it, I think, and then director Sonnenfeld was just like, nah, that's too boring, let's change it. And so this and a few other things were kind of changed pretty quickly and towards the last minute. So the ending that we ended up getting cost the studio $4.5 million extra to do, which with $1 billion of $90 million, it's still a pretty good chunk of cash. There are also, I guess, 5 other endings that they were thinking about doing, and then which one of them ends with the love interest being neuralized. But I tried looking up what those other 5 endings would have been, but I couldn't find them anywhere. Oh. But yeah, we ended up settling on the one that cost them, I guess, $4.5 million to do.
Yeah, that's a pretty penny, but if I'm not mistaken, this movie did just gangbusters at the box office.
Yes, it did very, very well because it had a budget of $90 million, and then in the U.S. alone, it got $250.7 million.
Yeah,
and then with the foreign box office, $338.7 million, with a worldwide box office total of $589.4 million.
Yeah.
So, good cash.
So this movie alone grossed over $500 million.
Yeah, which is very, very impressive. In fact, opening weekend, it almost reached its budget limit, which is $51 million. It got opening weekend. So, I mean, it came pretty close to their $90 million. Didn't pass it, but still. It's still really good money for a movie that is relatively original. I mean, it's based off of a Marvel comic.
Oh, yeah.
But it's not something that has any establishing property behind it. Even the director, who has definitely done movies before, but not something like Steven Spielberg. So I wonder if it's the name Steven Spielberg that kind of helped the public look into it, because he is a producer.
Yeah, that and name recognition with Will Smith, and also this is three years after Tommy Lee Jones won the Oscar for The Fugitive, so. It's kind of the perfect storm here of what they were doing. And it was a Sony movie also. And they really did choose the right opening weekend. They chose the July 4th opening weekend
Right.
where, Independence Day, everybody's celebrating. And like nothing else really was opening that weekend. Out to Sea came in 6th, Wild America in 9th, and Guantanamera that didn't even register. It grossed like $8,000. So,
right.
The top 5 people had already seen all of these movies for a few weeks. Face Off with Nicolas Cage and John Travolta, Hercules. I don't know. Is that the cartoon? I don't know. My Best Friend's Wedding, which is a pretty good movie. Julia Roberts and Dermot Mulroney. I recommend it. And Batman and Robin was number 5, which was not good. So.
I mean, we all know about that one.
We don't speak of that one.
Right. Yeah, this was number 1 for, I think, 3 weeks. And then week 4 is when it dropped to, I believe, 3rd place. And that was when Air Force One opened.
Of course.
Yeah. I mean, it still had a pretty good run. I think it stayed in 3rd and 4th for a couple more weeks and then ended up dropping down after that. But yeah, still had a very good theatrical run regardless.
Yes, and it looks like if you adjust for inflation even, this is the highest grossing of the 3 films.
That honestly wouldn't surprise me though. Because when you hear the words Men in Black, people usually revert to this one. I hear the next 2 are critically not as great or not as well received as this one is. But
right.
Yeah.
For audiences, they didn't like it as much as I expected they would. The cinema score wasn't where I thought it would be.
Yeah. A B+, which I mean, it's still good, but much lower than I would have expected with this movie.
Yeah, I was expecting at least an A, honestly, for this first film, but no, B+. Audiences were like, yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
So that does surprise me. And the IMDb score is much higher, and I'll talk about that. I'll talk about why I think that.
Yeah. Now, I did look at the Rotten Tomatoes score, and it's a 92%, but that is also the critic score. Oh, what is the, I got right here. The audience score, though, is about 79%, which is, I guess, a bit lower than I would have expected, but not, I guess, terribly low.
No.
That does kind of connect with the cinema score.
Yeah, well, the IMDb score is 7.3, which is...
Yeah.
I would say that's pretty good for IMDb. That's fairly high. Not a lot of movies come there. Most movies are in the 6s, so... yeah, 7.3 is a lot better than I would have expected, I guess. And the reason I think that is because I think this movie has just gained a nostalgic following, where it's just Men in Black. Oh yeah, of course, I loved that movie when it came out, and I love it now, and so I think it's more of a nostalgia thing. I know on Letterboxd, most users gave it an 8 out of 10.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So I think it's the nostalgia factor.
Yeah. Honestly, I think the 7.3 is a bit low for how highly regarded this movie is to me. I mean, not terribly low. It's kind of in that middle ground where it's not terribly low, but also not terribly high. So, I mean, once again, it's not a bad score, and it is lower. Both cinema score I'm in IMDb and the user score from Rotten Tomatoes. They all seem lower, I guess, than what I was expecting.
This might surprise you, listeners. Men in Black earned 3 Oscar nominations, including 1 win. So this is an Oscar-winning film.
Yeah, best makeup for the Oscar win, which is, I mean, sure, I guess.
Sure. I believe it was done by Rick Baker, who is fairly famous. Let me look here real quick.
I guess when they say best makeup, I wonder if they're also talking about prosthetics and animatronics, maybe, because Rick Baker is the guy who did those 2 things. So I wonder if that's what ties into best makeup, perhaps. Because it does seem a bit odd to me for this movie to win best makeup.
Okay, maybe he's not as famous as I thought. Okay, well, I mean, Rick Baker did, Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes. He did the remake of King Kong. He did Michael Jackson's Thriller, I think. He apparently worked on the Disney movie Maleficent, which the trailer just dropped for the new one.
Right, I heard about that.
I don't know. Okay, never mind, listeners. I thought I had something here, but never mind. Okay, moving on.
But the other two Oscars that were nominations for this movie were Best Art Direction and Best Original Score or Comedy Score for Danny Elfman.
What? Oh, Danny Elfman did this. Cool.
Yeah, which, I mean, I guess we'll kind of briefly mention the score a bit later, but that seems like an interesting choice to me. I wonder if original musical or comedy was a different category than just regular best score in 1998. I'm gonna look that up once Vanity Fair leaves me alone. Yeah, okay, here it is. So at least the 1998 Oscars, and I'm guessing there were a couple years also with this, there were two sections for best original score. There was original dramatic score and original musical or comedy score, and then also original song, but that doesn't really count.
Okay, listeners, if you haven't seen Men in Black and you don't want it spoiled for you, I recommend that you go rent the movie and then come back here and click play, because you want to know what we're talking about here. You want to be in the know, just like with me and Alan. We want to be a part of the cultural zeitgeist and say that we have watched Men in Black. So go ahead and say that you've watched Men in Black. Come back here and click play, and we'll be ready to talk about it.
Since 1961, when aliens were discovered on Earth, they have started to live among the people in secret, disguised as humans. After we follow a dragonfly through the sandy desert, we follow a caravan of people headed across the border, but an alien is in their midst. Two agents from the Men in Black secret agency pull aside a man who looks to be like a human, but turns out is an alien. Tommy Lee Jones shoots him after the alien tries to attack an officer at the scene, forcing Jones, called Agent K, to neuralize the police force, which wipes their memory of recent events. It is revealed that K's partner is retiring soon, thus K sets off to find a replacement. Meanwhile, NYPD officer James Darrell Edwards III, also later known as Agent J, is chasing down a suspect who has incredible agility and is able to scale buildings with ease. After nearly stopping the man, J watches him fall to his death atop a museum roof. Agent K sees this and is impressed, later approaching J for a position at MIB, or the Men in Black secret agency. J accepts this as taken under K's wing. J's identity is eradicated as if he never existed, or as if he doesn't exist and never did. A while later, an alien we will later know as Bug crash lands on a small farm, crushing a man's truck. When he goes to investigate, Bug kills him and uses his skin as a disguise. Bug's mission is to find the galaxy. Agent K and J see an article of a double homicide in a restaurant caused by Bug. The agents head to the morgue, and inside one of the aliens that was killed is a smaller alien who runs him like a robot. With his dying breaths, he says, "To prevent war, the galaxy is on Orion's belt." Come to find out, this small alien was a part of the Archelian royal family, and his death may spark a war between Earth and the Archelians. J and K get a tip off from an alien disguised as a pug that the galaxy is an energy source, and that it hangs off of a cat's collar, and the same cat that's in the morgue that came with one of the murders earlier. But before J and K can get their hands on it, Bug captures both the galaxy and the coroner Laurel, who has become a love interest at this point to Agent J. At the same time, the Archelians fire a warning shot and demand the galaxy in 1 hour, or in their case, I think it's like one standard galaxy week, or the Earth will be destroyed. J and K chase Bug and shoot him down after he tries to take off. However, in return, Bug swallows J and K's guns, and Agent J sacrifices himself to be swallowed whole by Bug to get his weapon back. J kills Bug from within, saving the day and retrieving the galaxy. Come to find out, K was trying to find a replacement the whole time and requests J to neuralize him so that he will never remember what happened with his time at MIB and rejoin his old life back with his wife. J gains a new partner, Coroner Laurel, and they go to police alien crime together as credits roll.
So the opening here I thought was kind of funny. We literally have illegal aliens.
Yeah.
So it's still apparently a hot topic 22 years later with illegal aliens crossing the border, and they're saying some of those are actually real aliens. And I thought it was funny enough. I think Tommy Lee Jones immediately stands himself out here as a funny character. He's going to still be kind of like straight-laced but comedic.
Yeah, and this opening is kind of funny too because we follow this dragonfly for a long time now. To be fair, it's also playing with credits, but you don't really know where this is headed. And then the dragonfly squats on, or a dragonfly is crushed on the windshield of this truck that's transporting a bunch of these people across the border. And so we know before we're going in, it would be reasonable to assume that the audience knows that this is a movie about aliens. But I guess they would have been thrown off by the aliens in terms of actual people that are being shown here in this opening, which is, I do think is kind of interesting because it is a topic that the movie kind of addresses here and there as one of its major themes. But it did kind of catch me off guard that we're starting here, with people trying to get across the border and become, I guess, illegal aliens in the Americas, I'm assuming.
Yes.
And instead we do end up finding an actual alien that's disguised as a human here. But this opening did kind of catch me off guard a little bit, just, I guess, kind of given the circumstances.
Yeah, and, okay, some of, like, the practical, like, animatronic effects I don't think look bad at all. I think they look pretty good, actually. Yeah. But when we switch over to full CGI creations, those are very dated, quite ugly early 2000 inventions.
Yeah, especially the final fight that we have. That's where it's really apparent how much age has kind of, I guess, come against this movie. Mm-hmm. Because the final fight with Bug, and really kind of this opening too, but it's not nearly as bad, and that may be due to the darker lighting. You can tell when there's CG being used, and it's really not very hard to distinguish when that is. And that's kind of something that I guess just once again comes with age with this movie, because it was made in 1997, and this would have been about the time that every single blockbuster had some kind of CG in it. So yeah, the effects here, animatronics are good, but the CG effects have definitely dated from 1997.
I do find it a little odd that, and I understand they're doing it to move the story along extremely quickly, but Kay neuralizes his old partner right then and there, and
right,
you would think they'd have to go through some like paperwork or some higher up decision, not just like, okay, right, well you messed up tonight, so you're done. I guess maybe what they're trying to do is probably draw a parallel to the end of the movie, where Jay has to just neuralize Kay right there, and he has to find a partner like the next day, it seems like. So events in this movie move along very fast. Yeah.
And I mean, that's to be expected. It is a comedy. So yeah, things do move on pretty quick. But yeah, I mean, I guess it's a little bit, I mean, I understand the foreshadowing element here at the beginning, where he has to neuralize his partner, but I think his partner only gets like 3 lines in this opening. So it's not like there was any kind of emotional attachment to him anyways. Maybe there really wasn't supposed to be in the beginning. So
I was surprised because I always knew that from the posters and trailers, Tommy Lee Jones and Will Smith were partners, but then to see here in the opening that Tommy Lee Jones is partners with this older man, that did surprise me. But then quickly we realized that Will Smith will be recruited, brought into the system, and then from there on out they'll be partners. But then I'm even more surprised because then at the end Tommy Lee Jones is like, "Hey, I'm done," and he gets neuralized, and then Will Smith has a new partner at the end, and so that really does cause me to question, because I've seen trailers and posters for 2 and 3, and I know Tommy is back. It's just a weird move, it seems like, to make these two partners and then end their partnership at the end of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, with at least the foreknowledge that he will return in the next 2, I would say, yeah, it is a bit weird, seeing that he's been neuralized here at the very end. So I do wonder how they're going to handle that in the next movies, knowing that he is part of the cast there. Do we know if Laurel comes back? Because I don't remember seeing her in the posters.
She never comes back. It's kind of weird.
I mean, I guess I'm not too surprised by that. But, yeah, that is... I wonder what these next movies are going to be like now that I think about it.
Yeah, I was expecting her to come back for the next film. I'm going to have to really pay close attention to see because I think she is a dropped line. She's barely addressed by she's not there with him. So it's kind of weird to set her up like she's going to be a major player in the sequel. Come to find out, she's quickly thrown away.
Right. So we first meet Will Smith, and I'm guessing he was an undercover cop because it looks like he's got jail garb on when he's chasing this man. Is that reasonable to assume?
Yeah, he is an undercover cop. I can't ever understand what he's wearing here in the beginning. It looks like a plain jersey. It does look like some kind of jail jumpsuit. I don't know what he's wearing, but yeah, he's definitely undercover chasing this. Seems...
Yeah. I mean... I asked this because later on he's wearing this striped shirt that also has striped pants. So I'm just wondering if that was maybe part of his attire being undercover or if he was in jail. I mean, I kind of assumed he was in jail, but...
I think it's just his street clothes, his undercover clothes. This is just how he dresses in the late 90s. That's my guess.
Right. But we find out here, and it's also kind of reinforced a bit later, that he has pretty good skill at chasing down suspects. Even though the suspect he was trying to chase down is like climbing buildings, which is pretty apparent that they're using ropes. But climbing buildings pretty quick. This catches the eye of Agent K, and we kind of get this odd scene where he goes through, I guess, quote unquote training, which part of me kind of feels like it's more of a waste of time just for comedic potential, because 3 minutes in training they stop it all and he's chosen to be his partner. But I mean, whatever, I guess.
Yeah, when he is chasing that guy, I feel like we're in the first X-Men movie. And I had to look it up. The first X-Men movie wouldn't come out for another 3 years, so I think they probably...
Yeah, that came out really early 2000s.
I think they got some ideas here for what could a superhero, like mutant-type alien-ish movie be like. And it seems like Men in Black laid some of the groundwork with that, at least for when he's chasing this guy. We also are introduced to our villain, who is... I guess he's actually a giant bug, but he uses the skin of Vincent D'Onofrio, who many of you may know more recently from the Daredevil TV series, but he's also the Psycho in Full Metal Jacket.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, this is one of the more funnier scenes to me because it's a man just screaming at his wife for basically nothing.
Right.
And then, I mean, of course, he pretty much dies here in a couple of seconds. But yeah, there's a few scenes in here where I'm just like, oh, that's kind of funny. This is one of those scenes where it got me a little bit because it is just kind of a surreal moment to cut to. But it's still very funny.
Yeah, I think my favorite line in the whole movie right here is, "Get your big butt back inside." My girlfriend and I had so much fun with that line and making fun of it. It's incredibly cheesy. But also, yeah, he's saying, my pickup is the only one that pulls its weight around here. And then the thing destroys his pickup and he's like, figures. Then he's like, you're going to have to pry the gun from my dead cold hands. And he's like, that can be arranged. So this is a pretty good introduction scene. And also, I would say his makeup is incredible, honestly. I think this is probably the best makeup in the whole movie. Like, his skin is too bulgy in certain places, but it's stretched in certain areas. It's too loose. It's a very creepy look.
Yeah, it definitely makes him look like, the skin really doesn't fit, and that the guy's just a bit too big for it. That is kind of funny to see him kind of also struggling all throughout the whole movie, pretty much, of him just trying to get the skin in the right place and whatnot. Yeah, it is pretty funny to see this alien struggle. And we don't really ever see what Bug looks like until the very end. We only get... Actually, I don't think we see much at all. We kind of see the tail at one point, but that's really about it. Aside from the ending, we never really get to see what Bug really looks like.
Is it just me, or does Tommy Lee's head look too big for his body? Like, did you think about that
Perhaps.
at all? Like, his like...
Not really, actually. But now that you bring it up, I can see it.
His shoulders look... Like, he's got pretty, like, narrow-looking shoulders, which he doesn't look this way in The Fugitive. I don't know if he had lost weight, but his just head and neck look too large for his body in certain scenes. It threw me off. I don't know I guess I'm the only one who noticed it. I don't know.
I don't know. I can't say it was anything that I was thinking about when I was watching this.
Okay, so I think we've got some unnecessary confusion going on here in the story. We've got some redundancies, which I found to just be kind of annoying. So, for some reason, K exposes the alien side of life to J, but then he wipes his memory and then asks him to see him the next day and gives him a card that says Mike. And to me, it's just making it overly complicated just to have him come to training the next day.
Yeah, I was wondering that too. Why on earth flash him? And my initial thought was, okay, maybe it's because he doesn't want to tell anybody. But that also comes with another problem. I think Agent J is severely underdeveloped here because we never get, like...
Any backstory.
We never get anything that... Yeah, any backstory. There's basically nothing that, at least that's told to us in terms of any backstory. No love interest, no family, pretty much nothing. He comes in as a blank slate and almost leaves as a blank slate. There's not to say there's no development with him. There's a little bit, but throughout the whole movie, he's kind of just like, he doesn't have much to him, which I found to be honestly a little bit disappointing.
Yeah, and they go through this whole big scene of he realizes that if he joins the Men in Black, he's going to be erased essentially from the known world.
Right.
And we get this long scene of him sitting there on a park bench until sundown, contemplating it all. And then ultimately he does make the decision. I don't know why it's so difficult for him, because he apparently has nothing tying him to this world. No family, no friends,
right.
No wife or girlfriend. Now, as for Kay, we know that there is this woman that he loves, and he kind of like looks upon her from time to time. So there's something to him. Right. But yeah, these characters there's not much to them at all.
Right. And I mean, I can kind of get behind Agent K, kind of wanting to rejoin his wife and stuff. I can understand that. I can get behind that. It's not very deep, but for this kind of a movie, it makes sense why they wouldn't pry too far. But Agent J, who is our main character, it just seems like an odd choice to give him no backstory, no connection to this world, pretty much. And maybe there is something there. They just don't talk about it. They never say he has nothing. They never say that he has a girlfriend or anything. They just don't even mention it, which is why it makes me wonder, well, what kind of connection does he have aside from his job as a undercover police officer?
Yeah, they don't go much into it. We do get a Casablanca dropped line here.
Yeah, we do.
They're talking about the history of Men in Black in the 50s and 60s and like refugees and like fleeing from, he's like, yeah, did you see Casablanca? He's like, yeah, it's like that, but without the Nazis. So I thought that was funny. We also are introduced to these like weird little space worms that are jabbering on in some language, and they're like, make a mess of everything. They love cigarettes and coffee, and
yeah,
they're honestly probably the funniest part of this whole series.
And I do know that these characters also become pretty famous.
Oh, yeah.
As well, because they are just kind of silly. Yeah, these characters, it was just kind of funny because they're all messing around and stuff, and then when Agent K comes in, they're like, hi, Agent K, to him. And they act more out of respect to this man when they were like just messing around a second ago. It is pretty funny, these few guys. And then later on, you see him walking away when they think that the world is going to end with two full stacks of Marlboro cigarettes and all kinds of stuff. It's funny. They're really funny, and they're all animatronic too.
Oh, wow.
I think they might be CG in this next part, but I couldn't tell.
I do know they come back, at least for the next movie. Probably for the rest of the movies they'll come back, because I think they quickly became people's favorites.
Yeah, I believe you're correct. From what I've seen, they do return.
Now, we do meet the coroner, which also is just kind of, I understand it's like kind of funny, but she learns about the aliens, gets her memory wiped, learns about the aliens, gets her memory wiped, learns about the aliens, so we do have this redundancies where it's like she can't help but keep getting sucked into the plot because certain events keep happening, and so she learns about it, but her memory keeps getting wiped. It's kind of funny. It kind of works, and then ultimately they're like, hey, let's just bring her in on this. She seems to accept it all right, and she could work. So, but she does get a lot of redundancy going on here.
Yeah, there is a kind of a funny line that Will Smith says where he's just like, wouldn't flashing someone's memory cause some long-term damage? He goes, well, I don't know. So far it hasn't done anything. It is kind of a funny line that they have here because, I would be curious about that kind of a thing where if you're flashing someone's memory and erasing things so often, would that have any long-term effects? Now, I wouldn't have expected this movie to dive that deep into this kind of an issue or this kind of a question. But it is a funny thing to bring up here in this moment. But once again, kind of like with Agent J, her character is not really developed, which, isn't that big of a deal, but their relationship also isn't really developed hardly at all either.
And it never will be, so...
Yeah, and then, as we just talked about, she doesn't return,
if
so...
you're hoping for more... And, I think she is a completely fine character. I do like kind of the banter between her and Will Smith. And, she has an appealing quality to her, but doesn't... Just like with everything, nothing really goes beyond the surface here with this story. Mm-hmm. And they find out there is... like a little alien guy in this other guy's head. He's kind of like controlling his body. I thought that, like, the emotion and the life it displayed, that little alien creature, I thought that was pretty impressive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I say this is one of the few moments where I think the CG actually kind of works, because, it's CG, but I think that the way that they utilize it in the scene makes it feel as not, I guess, blatant as other scenes that we'll see later. But he kind of gives us this odd cryptic message of the galaxy is on Orion's belt. Which, I understand now what that means, but why give them such a cryptic message, I wonder? And why belt? Why not just say color?
Yeah, that was one of the questions on IMDb actually, is why didn't he just tell them? And they pointed out that he was, like, struggling to think of the right words. Like, he might not have known the right words, which seems unbelievable considering he had lived on the Earth for... I don't know. We don't know. He's an old man, so does his body age like usual? You think he would have learned the proper language. Also, when him and that giant is from Twin Peaks, by the way, when they're talking in the restaurant... Do people not know they're speaking a different language? Or they're like speaking an alien language out loud in front of everybody, but nobody notices.
Right. I could pass that up to maybe people just probably think that they're talking in another language that they don't know, not necessarily alien language. But yeah, I can't really buy the excuse that a little alien couldn't find the right words to say with his dying breath. That doesn't seem like a very, an excuse that has any really, I guess, hard facts or anything behind it that I can buy.
And so why does he kidnap the coroner?
Great question. I'm trying to remember why. Yeah, I don't really know why.
I don't know either. He goes there because he wants to find the cat, because he realizes the cat has it on its collar. And he knows that's where the body was taken, and that was the owner of the dead cat. But instead, he settles for the coroner, and then he knows where these other spaceships are, so he's going to take her up there with the spaceships with him. And they find... I don't know. This movie, honestly, at this point, is when I check out. On my first viewing, I'm like, okay, I'm watching it. On my second viewing, this is honestly when I check out. And I'm like, honestly, I really don't care.
I'm going to be honest with you. I think this movie kind of began to lose me about the halfway point. It was up until, I would say, the final battle that we have here, where I'm just like, I'm honestly struggling to keep with this movie. I'm thinking it's bad, but because I'm not finding anything to latch on to. That may be because this movie is pretty surface level for the most part. Aside from maybe the idea of aliens living among us, and then, I mean, also how more current events kind of help keep this movie alive and that kind of aspect. The problem I have here is Agent J is almost pretty much a blank slate. His relationship with the coroner is very, very surface level. And we don't really pry too deep with a lot of these things. And I think that's unfortunate that even the villain too, his motivation is not really stated. And if it is not anything that seems to be super important because they only mention it maybe once, if that. And then we have the Archelians, which, I mean, they do mention it, but everything just kind of feels very surface level and not really explored past maybe the kiddie pool and the 3-foot end of the pool when they could have dove into the 8-foot or 12-foot deep end for big kids.
Well, it's also not that funny.
I can say that for some scenes. There are some scenes where I'm just like, nah, not really. And then I can't not say that it didn't make me laugh. There are a few scenes where it did get a chuckle out of me, but for the most part, yeah, it's not something that I think comedy-wise has aged very well either.
I just needed to be laughing a lot more to really be drawn in. This movie has to decide what it wants to be. It's fine if it's science fiction, but if you're going to have a character like Will Smith is funny, and play off Tommy Lee Jones, it's just, I don't think it works that well. I don't think it's not that funny. The scene where Jay shoots the little girl instead of the monsters, and he's trying to make his case for why he did it. I found that scene to be so stupid and not funny at all.
That's one of the scenes where I'm just like, I think it does go on for too long, and it goes into the stage of awkwardness because they are trying to be funny with it, but it's also like they keep taking the joke and extending it longer and longer and longer to a point where it isn't funny anymore and it's kind of just awkward. There are a couple of moments like that. That's probably the worst one that I can think of, though.
Yeah, and I think the story banks on hopefully setting itself apart by turning everything on its head. You know, a young, black, streetwise cop paired with a snooty old man. Trash tabloids are actual news of aliens. Life on Earth isn't exactly special, and most of all, our galaxy is contained within a marble used to play marbles by aliens. And, for the most part, I think it's all fairly innocent. I don't really find it all that funny. And I did find it interesting, kind of this push to, decentralize, the importance of humanity and Earth, which is interesting because we'll also talk about that in, Avengers Endgame. How Earth isn't that special anymore. We just found that out all of a sudden. And the galaxy is within it's all part of a game where it's our galaxy, our world is just a game of marbles. It's kind of a game of chance in a way. So I do take a bit of issue with that because it could be construed as, almost a little anti-God where there's really no sovereign creator. It's just all this, we're like these silly little, ants within a marble within a game. It's just really weird. I don't know what they're trying to go for with it. They're trying to be a little too clever, I think.
I wonder if they even thought about that kind of a thing. Just given how the rest of this movie is, Probably I'm guessing not. That they decided, this would be funny to have an alien play marvels with the actual galaxy that the Earth is inside of, and that there are multiple galaxies just like this. I wonder if maybe they didn't even press too hard with that. And they were just like, wouldn't this be kind of funny to have a visual at the very end with a couple aliens or maybe just one alien playing marbles with our galaxy? And there are plenty other galaxies a part of this whole thing too. Because like, once again, given how deep this movie does go, which is not very deep at all, it wouldn't surprise me that wasn't anything that passed the minds of when it was written, to have something along those lines being thought of while they're writing this movie.
The one thing that I'm really kind of bothered by is it looks like he's really shaking a dog when he shakes the pug. I'm like, is that a real dog? That looks like a real dog.
It is kind of funny, the sounds that he makes, but yeah, don't shake your dog like that.
Yeah. The pug does come back. The pug also becomes another favorite.
Yes, I do remember seeing him in the trailers for the next few.
Well, are we ready for our final recommends?
I guess so. I mean,
okay.
I'm trying to think of what else to talk about, and I mean, because the other movies that we usually talk about have more deeper thematic. They have deeper themes here, and everything kind of pulls together, and the reasons why they're all there is for serving the plot. This movie that's not necessarily what it doesn't have. It's also not very deep with what it talks about.
Yeah, Alan, what is your rating and recommendation for Men in Black?
Men in Black, I can understand why it was funny back in the 90s. And when I watched this movie, I try to put myself back when this movie was released. And I can definitely see where a lot of other movies have taken elements from this movie in particular. I think that the designs of the aliens that we do see are very creative, and I would actually like to see more of this, which I'm sure we'll get in the next few. But I think where this movie falls short is its characters and its thematic depth. We don't go too deep with anything. Like, even our main character, I mentioned earlier, has no backstory. The coroner, she begins a relationship with Agent J, and their relationship is literally just skin deep. The only character that has any kind of depth, and even then it's very, very shallow, is Agent K with his wife. But that's pretty much about it. We don't get much of anything else. I like the idea of actual aliens being a part of this world, and how that kind of relates to aliens, illegal aliens from other countries kind of coming into America. I like that idea, but once again, they don't really take that anywhere. It's very, very shallow. So, I mean, it's fun. It's a fun movie. I won't say that, but towards the 45-minute mark, I was trying to keep myself interested, and that's not good when it's a comedy. Speaking of which, the comedy here at times can be very spotty, in my own opinion. So, do I recommend this movie? It's a very, very mild recommend from me, but I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10.
Men in Black was surely an okayishly fun time back in 97, but today it doesn't hold up. I like the setting, the aliens, and some of the comedy. Also, the villain is grotesque and the team-up of Smith and Jones does work. I like it. But this movie is boring, honestly. This is a one-and-done kind of movie. Watch it once so you can be part of the cultural zeitgeist, but then you don't need to return to it again. I know a majority of people seemingly love this movie, but I'm chalking some of that up to nostalgia. Men in Black receives 6 stars out of 10 with the mildest of recommends. So I'm a little disappointed that Men in Black wasn't better, and this is how I felt in January when we watched them all, and I'm like, so that's it?
Yeah.
They do get better. I will say that, at least in my own opinion.
Okay.
But like, once again, that's debatable. People have mixed feelings and think this is as good as it gets. Some people think, no, that's not true. I don't know.
I have seen the critic score as well for the second one, and it's not looking too pretty, at least with the critic score.
Yeah. We will get to that next week, listeners. We will be coming back with Men in Black 2, and then the week after that, Men in Black 3. So we are going straight through this one. Then we'll go on a bit of a pause until Men in Black International comes out. We'll be returning to Shyamalan after Men in Black 3. So, listeners, we want to know what you think of Men in Black. Do you love this movie? Are we crazy? Are we missing out here? We want to know what you think. I didn't say it was completely bad, so don't think that, listeners.
Yeah, don't get us wrong. I don't think either of us think it's bad.
Yeah, no. And you know what? Like, maybe in like a few years, if I'm just wanting something really light and nostalgic and just something kind of like fun and easy, maybe I'll pop this on in the background while I'm doing housework. I don't know. It could happen.
Yeah, maybe when we mature, we'll come back to it and think something differently of it.
Yeah.
Could
maybe.
happen.
It could happen. Listeners, if you do want more reviews in the meantime, since if you're not content with just one review a week, or if you want something new and different, then go ahead and head on over to our Patreon page where you can get bonus podcasts. You can also do Q&As with us. You can hear our thoughts on the latest movie news and trailers, and even movie commentary. So you can pop on the movie and it's like we're watching the movie right there with you as we give you our thoughts on everything that's going on, all kinds of background insight and details. So go ahead and head on over there to our Patreon page. Just for the price of a Starbucks cup of coffee, you get to keep that content. The coffee you drink, it's gone. This content is yours forever. It really does help us keep the lights on. And by lights, I mean bandwidth and storage capacity, which is not free. So we would really appreciate your support over there, and you get some great content in return. Also, go ahead and follow us on Facebook and Twitter, also through email if you're like me and you love email, except when I get too many emails, then that really bothers me. So go ahead and follow us on there. Also, if you're listening through iTunes, please go ahead and give us a 5-star review. We really do appreciate the 5-star reviews that we're getting. That is so great. Thank you so much. And the reason we do ask you that is not to inflate our own ego. We're really going to try and not let that happen. But it does help other people find the podcast that do want to hear us talk about movies, or do want to engage in a community where we love talking about film. We love talking about movies, and we love talking about them with you. So listeners, we do want to thank you for joining us for Men in Black. We do have I think our Avengers Endgame should be up by the time Men in Black is up, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it better be.
It better be. So go check that out. We technically haven't recorded it yet, but this podcast, you'll be listening to it in the future. It's really cool how that works. So go ahead and check out our Avengers Endgame, where we talk about all those spoilery, juicy details. The biggest film of all time. I'm looking forward to talking about it. And don't forget to catch up on our M. Night Shyamalan series, because we will be coming back to that in 3 weeks. So you do have plenty of time to listen to all 6 Shyamalan reviews before we tackle like the last 6 or 7 movies. So listeners, thank you for joining us. Alan, thank you for joining me.
Sure thing.
We will see you next week with Men in Black 2.